Welcome to Eat, Sleep, Wine, Repeat, a podcast for all you wine lovers who, if you're like me, just cannot get enough of the good stuff. I'm Janina, your host, brand ambassador, wine educator, and sommelier. So stick with me as we dive deeper into this ever-evolving, wonderful world of wine. And wherever you are listening to this, cheers to you. Welcome to this special mini-series where we take a closer look at the people and organisations in the wine world who are championing diversity, equity and inclusion. So across these episodes, I'm going to be sitting down with inspiring voices from winemakers and educators to change makers across the industry, all doing meaningful work to shape a more inclusive future for wine. These conversations are designed to uplift, to challenge and to leave us all reflecting on how we can make positive changes in our own spaces, whether that's in the vineyard, the tasting room or the boardroom. While we may not be diving quite as deep into the usual wine geekery this time around, I promise you'll still walk away with plenty to think about, fresh perspectives and perhaps a few new producers to discover, all rooted in purpose. I hope each episode leaves you feeling just a little bit more inspired than when you started. Today's episode is one I've been waiting a really long time to bring you. It is a story of breaking boundaries, blending brilliance, and standing tall in a system that really was not built to let you in. Carmen Stevens is a force in South African wine. She's the first Black South African to qualify as a winemaker, a milestone that was at the time met not with open arms, but with hostility, rejection, and heartbreak. What she had to endure just to get through the front door of winemaking school is very much a big part of this conversation. And I will be honest, it's intense. But it's also extraordinary. She went on to build the first 100% Black-owned winery in Stellenbosch, and her label, Carmen Stevens Wines, is more than a brand. It is a testament to resilience, artistry, and the power of small batch, terroir-driven winemaking that celebrates what Mother Nature gives you. We talk about what it really means to work with diverse fruit across South Africa's wine regions, why Carmen chose Carménère as her flagship grape. And yes, we're going to go deep on that. But Carmen's story just isn't about wine. It's about impact. Through her foundation, she's helped provide millions of school meals to children in need. We unpack what meaningful change looks like in the wine world and how we can all move beyond good intentions into real action. So pour a glass of something South African. Settle in for part 6. This is Carmen Stevens. I think that I have to start with, first of all, welcoming you, Carmen. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. But I want to dive straight in with the fact that you were the first Black South African to qualify as a winemaker. I mean, this is amazing. How did that moment make you feel? And I mean, how long ago was that now?
Firstly, thank you for having me. I think it's a fantastic platform to share, who we are and what we stand for. Qualifying as the first Black winemaker, I think it was the last 2 months of my time at the college that one of the students in the class said to me, Carmen, do you realize if you finish the end of the year, you'll be the first? It never even crossed my mind before that. When I did qualify at the end of that year, there was a write-up in the newspaper, but it was a write-up written by, funny enough, Bruce Jack. And Bruce Jack was not that well known. He was just another guy in the wine industry. And he wrote this article on me. And it actually, if I read that article today, I realized that a lot of people did not understand the gravity of that qualification then, or not the gravity, let me put it, they didn't realize what that actually meant, because to say that you're the first to qualify in any field, that's quite big. But this is 1995. We are still in that transition period, It was just, okay, she's here and that is how it is. today, if people qualify, they're the first in anything. A big hoo-ha is being made about it, especially if you are Black. Now, the very important point that I like to point out is I was not the first because of a lack of interest. If you go into any South African wine cellar, the people on the floor are the Black people. Okay, so the people that has always been part of this industry is just the people that was kept at a certain level. So I first applied in 1990 to go and study winemaking, and I was refused based on my color. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's, again, I say it's not because of a lack of interest. It's just because of there were certain barriers. There were certain things put up that certain things was only meant for certain people. I applied again in 91 for 92. I was told that I didn't have an agriculture background. They were right. I don't come from agriculture.
But was that true? Was that the real reason?
Well, I think,
or was it still?
I think it's very much things that people come up with to stop things. You know, the third time I applied, I was told that I didn't do military service. Now, I want to be very clear that everybody, I'm going to say 97% of the people that did study with me, they did do military service. So maybe in their books, that was one of the qualifications that or criteria that you did have to have. So when I got that third letter, I decided no, because in 92, I did come across a correspondence course in agriculture, which I did. I always, and up to date, I find it very funny that I did agriculture via correspondence. But I took those marks back to the college. I got onto a train and I walked for 45 minutes to the college. I said, I want to see the head of the college. And I said to me, here's my fourth application. And he said, no, we are full. And I said, no, you don't understand. This is my fourth. And here is my background in agriculture now, a 1-year agriculture diploma. And he said, sorry, we are full. And I said, no, you don't understand. If you don't take me, I'm going to go to the newspapers. And I had that leverage because of the political climate in South Africa at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And he still said to me, you can't do that. And I remember saying to him that Nelson Mandela says, I can do whatever I want to do now. And if I think back now, I was so young. I don't know where I got that. Just
thank God you had
that. You know, this was all the...
That also resilience, tenacity, strength, fierceness, right?
I think I had my mind on winemaking since a very young age. And when it told me the first time, no, in my back of my mind, I said to myself, okay, I don't have the money to go and study, so I'll find a job and I will get this money to pay for the studies. So in my mind, I was sort of set, this is what I'm going to do. Then I got the money to an extent. And that was the only money I had. So it had to work. There was no, and to be very honest, I never had any other career ideas. I just wanted to make wine. And 2 weeks later, then there was no emails. I got a letter to say that you've been accepted. So accepted to start in January of 93. Over the moon to start. Now, if I think back now, a lot of people ask me, but why wine? I think why wine? It was so different from where I come from. Where I come from is it's poor communities. Wine and the whole glamour around wine, how green, how clean. I think that really is one of the things that really attracted me to the industry. The white buildings, I loved it. I remember my first morning going to the college. My dad drove me to the college. Because it's a college, you have to stay at the college. So we drove into this institute. And I remember I was so in awe with these beautiful huge white buildings, these oak trees everywhere, the green vineyards. I remember looking at the dirt roads, which was the Kulu soils, because it was orange, it was compact. I was so in love with just the idea of being at this place, to study at this place. And as we drove in, my dad asked me, "Are you sure you want to be here?" And I never understood the gravity of that question until much later. Because when we drove in, what he saw was just a lot of white male students. What I saw was the white buildings, how green it was, the beautiful soil, dirt roads, and I just loved that. So only later did I realize, what was meant by that question. And it's this is 1993. This is before the 1994 democratic elections. Everybody's on edge. The political situation is just not favorable. And I just remember I'm now already 3 years out of school. So in my mind, I'm a big girl. In his mind is probably, I'm going to leave my daughter here with what looks like only white people. And with our history, that didn't gel well. So, if I look back on my life now, I realize what a bold, big step that was. Not just for me, but for my dad to actually leave me there and say, "Are you sure you don't want to go home?" So
I just think but thank goodness for perhaps actually just your dream, your focus, and also a little bit of innocence.
yes, that's
as
what
well,
innocence.
that allowed you to go through something that otherwise, if you were so aware, I think it would have been incredibly uncomfortable and very difficult. But did you find that once you were on the course and you were learning, that you were learning just like everybody else? Was there ever any moments when you felt incredibly uncomfortable or dialogues that just didn't feel right?
I think that 1 year agriculture diploma really almost groomed me for what I was going to get there. If you look at the actual study guides or that never bothered me. I loved that. I always say, if I can do that, agriculture in my mind is probably one of the easiest things to study. I think one of the questions, if I may say this, in what you sent me was, what was the barriers? And I thought about that long last night, and I thought the barriers was the obvious. You are not a white person in an environment where there's only white students. All my lecturers were white. The people that was my color were the cleaners, the people that worked on the farm. So even in that, I didn't see a barrier. It's what you just said. It's that innocence, because a lot of people say, but you go silent, you are alienated. And even if I was, because I didn't fit the mold, it didn't bother me. It was never for me I cannot do this. For me, it was, I'm here for a reason, and I'm going to finish here with what I came for. That does not mean that it wasn't difficult. Make no mistake. It was probably one of the most trying times in my life. So my first year, we were 5 girls.
Okay.
And it was the first year that the college actually took in 5 girls. Before that was 1 or 2 girls. It was always just a male college. So one of the girls asked me one day, "Carmen, don't you miss Elsenburg?" And I was like, "Are you out of your mind?" It was, in my life, I could never miss something that was so much strain on me emotionally. So emotionally, yes, the barrier were there. Emotionally, I had to really learn how to cope. The one thing I did learn in that, and this is only in my 2nd year, was that not everybody has the same idea of how things should be. And if I say that, In the middle of my second year, I could not. Okay, so I was on every kind of antidepressant that you can find, things to calm me down.
Oh.
Our house doctors said to my mother that she's heading for a breakdown. She needs to get away. And my mother called me and said, listen, this is what's going to happen. You pack your bags, or I'll pack it for you. I'll come and I'll pack your bags for you. And at that point, I was emotionally so drained. I could not anymore. And I said to her, okay, I'll pack my bags, but I'm not going without having my say. And I made an appointment with the head of agriculture Western Cape, which was based at this college. And I can honestly say to you, I think I had my breakdown in his office. He was an older gentleman, older white man. And I think he got the shock of his life. And he just said, listen, you need to calm down. Sit down. At that point, I'm crying. I'm screaming. I told him, I'm here to tell you, I'm going to every newspaper that wants to know what you've done to me. And I think he was so shocked that he just said, I'm going to make you some tea and you're going to tell me what happened to you. And what I learned in that 2 hours was that maybe even him did not see a future for me there, but he saw the bigger picture. And I learned that not everybody thinks on the same wavelength. And if I think back now, I think I wish I took that step earlier because my life would have been much easier. And I learned that if you open your mouth and you speak up, that can be to your benefit. I never had, when I was there, I could never go to people to say, listen, yeah, I'm unhappy about this. I did, and I was told, you're on other people's territory. You can't come to me. So it's choosing or approaching the right people that can make a difference. And this man made a difference. He saw the bigger picture and turned my whole life and my experience around by 2 hours, sitting in his office, telling him what happened to me for 1.5 years. But, people grow. People get wiser. People get older. The people I studied with were my age. I think I was as much a threat to them as they were to me. I would like to believe today, if I speak to them, that they have other insights in how to treat people,
Well, all I can say, that's more powerful and intense than I expected you to tell me. And I think, it's awful to listen to something like that. And I haven't been through that experience. Hopefully, well, I hope no one listening has been through that experience, but there will be people that resonate. And all I can say is, thank goodness that you did use your voice, that you did speak up, that you did complete this, because as you said, looking back, you creating a path without knowing it through your experience, through your painful experience. You've opened up a door, and now here we are talking about your wines.
I just want to say one thing. I think what's very important, I've never seen myself as a victim, and I don't want anybody to see me as a victim, because what that years at that institution taught me was how to stand up for myself, how to speak up for myself.
That's great.
I've never looked at myself as a victim. No, I came out stronger. I came out very opinionated.
Good.
Fortunately. And what that experience taught me really molded me into the person I am today. And for that, I'm grateful.
And from everything I've seen, a very, very beautiful person. Now we are we are going to touch on some of the most amazing things that you have been doing within your power for people in the community. But I would love to talk about just some of the wines, your winemaking approaches, what you're doing, so people can understand what is Carmen Stevens Wines first. So I know that you've said that with every vintage, it's about celebrating what Mother Nature gives you, which I love. So I wonder, how does that show up in your approach to your very much small batch blending? Aren't you, if I've understood? So, who are you as a winemaker? Who is Carmen Stevens, the winemaker?
So I think the one thing that counts in my favor, I like to experiment. I like to try new things. Coming back to what you said, that I say that I like to celebrate what Mother Nature gives me. For me, an example of that is my Sauvignon Blanc. It comes out of a cool climate. We get acidities, even in South Africa, that can be as high as 10. I'm not sure what that's going to mean anything to people, but it's quite high.
Well, for context for people, when we talk about acidities, tartaric acid, normally, even in England, which is super cool climate, you get to about 8 as standard. 9 would be crazy. Yeah. So 10, yes. Okay. We're talking through the roof. Okay. Acidity.
So that is what Mother Nature gave me. She gave me something that is beautifully ripe at 23 bricks, which is very ripe for Sauvignon Blanc, with a 10 acidity. And I need to take what she gives me and mold it so that when people drink that wine, that they still think, oh, wow, this is amazing. And how do I do that? I talk about cutting the nails of the model, that scratch.
Okay.
I want that vibrance. I want that zest. That is what Sauvignon Blanc is all about. I want that expression, but I need to make it a little bit more friendlier on the palate. And that is where I think small batch winemaking can really take what is given and mold it so that it's more, I want to use the word palatable. And how do I do that?
Yeah.
I normally work with 3 to 4 different yeast types that I buy. And over the years, I've learned what yeast cultures or brands works the best with that specific grapes out of that specific region. I've learned that to celebrate the flavors in the wine and not to try and turn the flavors that's there into something else. And when I say that, people tend to say, but the wine is it tastes green and we don't like the green, so we're going to use a yeast that can maybe turn this into something more like passion fruit. No, I don't believe in that. I believe if I taste figs, I'm going to use a yeast that celebrate that flavor spectrum. That's the one thing. I like to blend yeast as well. 29 years of winemaking experience teaches you a lot of things. And then to have those components of where I have cultured yeast, that brings one aspect of wine. So we start with 3 to 4 different tanks, small batches, different yeast types. Then I have normally between 17 and 20% that I do a spontaneous or natural ferment. And what does that bring to the party? Where the cultivated yeast celebrates the flavors or elevates the flavors in the juice. Natural yeast gives a fuller, rounder, almost a sweeter mid-palate, and the wine is completely dry. Then I like to work with a tiny bit of New French oak, because again, the oak just takes that acidity that is so prominent and it encapsulates it and gives you this exotic other component. And then lots of lees stirring to build the palate, because you have this heavy acidity and you need to, like I said, take it and cover it with something a little bit softer. And if you put those different components in the right portions, percentages together, you get a wine that is vibrant, that is zesty, a beautiful soft mid-palate that does not attack you when you drink it. And that for me is celebrating what Mother Nature gives me. I still have the zest, I still have the vibrance, but I have these other components in between to make it more balanced on the palate. Does it
Well,
make
see,
sense?
now that it totally makes sense. In fact, I first discovered you several years ago by tasting one of your Sauvignon Blancs, which, by the way, in the UK was, I think, £8 a bottle. And I remember it being so sophisticated, but explosive fruit. And I can't remember much more now. It was years ago. I was just so impressed. So there we go. Little secrets. Winemakers, you do your own thing. Don't listen to Carmen. But I have a question, because you've talked about Sauvignon Blanc. But am I right that Carménère is your flagship wine?
Yes. Oh, I love it. I tasted it the first time. I think it was at the London Trade Fair. I went for a walk. I just walked and I stopped and I said, can I taste? And this guy poured this wine and I tasted and I was like, oh, I like this. And I said, what is this? And he said, it's Carménère. And I said, no, what is the name of, what wine is this? He said, it's Carménère. And I said, please, what is the name of the wine? He said, and he showed me this Carménère. And I thought he was reading my name tag. So I was like,
how fun.
So I was like, he said, it's a grape variety. You've never heard of it? And I looked up and I said, oh, I'm in Chile. I'm actually in Chile. And I was like, talk to him and he explained to me about it. And I loved what I tasted. It was so peppery. It was so beautifully structured. It was smooth, peppery. And it reminded me almost of, I always say it's like Cabernet Franc on steroids.
Okay,
it's just this, it has all these, it has the structure, there's the smoothness, it has full body, there's a mid-palate sweetness. It's just this amazing wine. Came back, started looking for Carmén, couldn't find it. Only found 4 rows in Wellington, of all places, in South Africa. And I approached the grower and I said, can I please buy this? But will you please help me to bring out the best in this? And he was like, we just blend that stuff away. I'm like, please, can we work on this? Will you help me? And he said, okay, let's see. And our very first vintage was this inky black wine. This beautiful, because it's Wellington. Wellington is a warmer climate, more darker fruit, it's like black berry fruit. And in the middle is the sweet, soft spot. It still had structure. It was smooth. And I just loved it. Okay, so the other thing is, for everybody has a wine, everybody has a cab, everybody has a Sauvignon Blanc. And you pull in people by having something different. And I thought, this is an amazing wine. I would like to bowl on it. Initially, it wasn't my flagship. And as the years went on and we got award after award for Carmén out of South Africa, I just thought, people come to us to taste Carmén. Because I think there's 2 producers in South Africa.
I was going to say, I've actually never heard of it. But you know what? I wonder if it was your destiny when you think about the fact that Carménère, for anybody who doesn't know, is Chile's grape, because it was rediscovered after what was considered extinction in Carmen's vineyards, which is quite hilarious. And in 1994 it was rediscovered, which is the year after you qualified. So ultimately, you getting into wine and discovering yourself and your winemaking style was exactly in parallel with Carmén being rediscovered. And
I
actually
never thought of it that way.
Right, no, but it's your destiny. Like, and also Carmen. So I've worked for a Chilean winery for many years. Okay. I'm a massive fan of Carménère, and I've seen the change and the issues. Of course, they were harvesting it at the wrong time, thinking it was Merlot. The treatment, and also you can't just look to Bordeaux or Burgundy to say, hey guys, what have you been doing? So the Chileans have had to figure it out for themselves. And so it's had such a bad rap because they didn't even know what they were doing. So the fact is, as you've been growing as a winemaker, the reputation for Carménère has been growing. And so, I mean, I think it's, well, I don't know, serendipity, destiny. How
Yeah.
beautiful. So, yeah. So, okay. So you are, what are you still trying to bring out the bell pepper, the green notes, the herbal notes, or does it just give it to the wine naturally, or are you finding South African Carménère is actually very different to Chile's?
So I had a British wine master here 2-3 years ago. I wish he's going to kick me because I can't remember his name.
Peter Richards.
Yes.
Peter Richards. Boom.
I'm sure it's Peter Richards, yes. He came and he tasted and he said, wow, it's so much like the same expression as what you would get in Chile.
Interesting.
Which for me is weird because I've tasted a lot of Chilean Carménères, obviously. I do think that where it grows does have an impact on it. I want to say that so I've got 2 blocks. I've got one in Wellington, which is the darker fruit, the more lush, more...
Because of the warmth, I guess.
Because of the warmth. And then I have a block against the Helderberg Mountain, which is Mediterranean climate, on decomposed granite. And it has this paprika in it. Yes, does it have some bell peppers? Yes, it does. But it's not the green bell pepper. And that's why I say it reminds me of Cabernet Franc, but a little bit more sturdy. So if I have to explain Stellenbosch has this acidity that just stands in this wine, just gives us this backbone. And then it has this lush, beautiful flavors and palate weight. It's the wine. It has such an amazing depth of palate. So, but we do, when we during harvest, we try and open it a lot to bring in the right amount of sunlight, the right amount of air flow through it. We do, breaking away of the leaves quite early to expose the berries to enough, but not too much sunlight to burn off a lot of those green elements.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
But I can tell you that if I should compare that wine to other reds in South Africa, does it have more of a green bell pepper flavor? No. Maybe I'm just used to it. I'm not sure now. But the people that buys it, again, is not, it's people that understands wine. People that wants to drink something different. I promise you, I'm sold out every year on that. It's not big production, but still, people come and look for it. So it carries a lot of weight with people, and I think it's fantastic. I think, to be very honest with you, this is one of the other things that I've discovered over the years, is that we pick it much earlier than a lot of our other red grape varietals. So it comes in the lower alcohol, and it still has this fleshiness, this depth, this beautiful length. It works. For me, it works in South Africa.
Interesting. Now, I mean, I've got really excited. I feel like you're not just a winemaker. I think you're a pretty good sales person. Actually, I'm like, give me the Carménère. However, what I have in front of me is what is actually available in the UK, which is different to your main range in South Africa, isn't it? You do some specific wines for the UK. So this is a coastal blend. It's a red. Do you pronounce it Catoria?
Catoria, yes.
Catoria. So I've got a 2022 in front of me. This is a Bordeaux blend, so it's mainly Cabernet Sauvignon. You haven't squidged any Carménère in there, have you?
No. Funny enough, the newest vintage does have it in, but that's a 2022. And I want to tell you, it does.
No, I do. I have 2022.
You've got 2022? Then that is...
And I am so excited because, funny enough, so I'm smelling it and I assumed it was probably Cabernet Franc because, as we've already talked about it, there are similarities of Cabernet Franc and of Carménère. And you've got all this lovely cassis note, but there's a fresh green note. There's a little bit of even gravelly nature, a little bit of black cracked pepper.
Yes. And there's only 4% of Carmén in that blend. And it just gave it the right depth. It just brought something completely different to that Bordeaux blend. So in there is the Cab, there's Cabernet Franc, there's Merlot, there's Petit Verdot, and there's Carmén. And I think it just plays so well together. Now, if you look at the blend and what the origin coastal stand for is when you blend Stellenbosch with Paarl. And in that wine, I always say that is my good marriage wine. Those varietals, they talk to each other. You know, there's a good marriage in that bottle. Those varietals,
Good communication.
and it just brings this beautiful. So the backbone, the proper acidity backbone that comes from Stellenbosch. Stellenbosch gives you that, upright. Look at me. There's a nice salty element that comes through on that palate. That is also decomposed granite soils that I feel gives a lot of that to our wines in South Africa. The fullness, the richness, that is palm. So they balance each other out. The different components balance each other out nicely. There's the great tannins.
Do you know what? The tannins are so soft and fine grained. It's got this lovely texture. What I love about the mouthfeel, it's really plush.
Yes.
It's quite polished, and the fruit is super ripe, but it's not in any way jammy. There's real freshness. And I love that actually there's hints of even, I don't know, some red currants, but mainly it's black fruit, darker fruit. But I like that there's a spectrum in there. And I really like this gravelly minerality to it. This is a very, very beautiful wine, which is insane, the fact that in the UK you can get it for $14.99. But for anyone listening, that is because it's with Naked Wines. And anyone who doesn't know, it's a wine club that works directly with the winemakers. So the pricing you get is fantastic for the value.
Yes.
So it's no surprise. But this is a beautiful, well-rounded wine. And also, it might just be the magic because you were in front of me and you're a beautiful speaker, feeling very, very emotional. And there's actually, okay, no, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity for me to read. This was what got me when I first found your Sauvignon Blanc years ago. So for anybody who doesn't know, if you're a customer of Naked Wines, you're an angel, and you have written... I'll try not to cry. No, it's beautiful. Thank you, angels. It's nice to be reading this in front of you. Thank you, angels. These are but a few words to express my gratitude for your trust, time, and support for me. Your precious words are my inspiration every day. Then you've quoted Nelson Mandela, and he says, if you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his language, that goes to his heart. And you finished off saying, I hope this wine I have prepared for you is in your language and speaks to your heart. Carmen Stevens. Cheers.
Thank you. I want to say to you, I always felt that I had to give some kind of praise because I believe if it wasn't for Nelson Mandela, I would not be a winemaker today. If it wasn't for the changes that came about, I wouldn't be where I am today. So that man changed Black South African lives. Nobody can put a value to that. Nobody. It is. We have different lives from when I was a child. I promise you that.
Well,
that's the first thing. The second thing I want to say is that, if it wasn't for Naked Wines, I wouldn't be in a position where I have my own brand. I want to tell you this because this is crazy how this started. Rowan Gromley, who's the founder, called me up one night on a Friday night, 8:00, and he just started talking. And I was like, who is this? And I remember him saying, how would you like to have your own brand? And I was like, and I looked at the time and I still said, listen, it's Friday night, it's 8:00. Don't you have something better to do?
Quite clearly not.
And never heard of them before. He just said, can I have your email address? And I said, no, you can. Where did you get my number? It was so
hilarious.
weird. And then
God, you're hardcore, Carmen.
And then he sent me this email and I was like, oh my God, this is a legit story. And that is, and also I didn't initially just say yes. He said, can I send you an email? Because I said, I can't just leave the company where I am. They've helped me so much. And he still said, would you mind if I send you an email once a month just to check in? And I was like, okay. That was in February of 2010. And in September, I said, okay, I'm going to the Netherlands. If the opportunity is still on the table, I would like to come and see you. And he still said, no, tell me where you'll be in the Netherlands and I'll come and see you there. And I was like, what is this? And because of that, I could start my own brand and, have my own space, my own wine.
Amazing. I didn't realize it was entirely because of Naked Wines. And then obviously you've grown from there, which is incredible. Wow. And I love the fact that he just kept on pushing. Good. Isn't it? He's your angel. We all have angels in our life. And okay, talking of angels, this is my perfect segue because it also links Naked Wines. Naked Wines angels themselves have also helped fund. They've supported. They've sent money across to one of your incredible foundations. So you've set up the Carmen Stevens Foundation, and this is helping children get fed in schools. This was something that again is incredibly powerful. You're not just making wine, working with Mother Nature, making wine from heart, being a trailblazer, opening up the doors for others to follow you, but you're also now making a massive difference in the community. So can you just tell everyone listening, I'm going to put the link, everybody, to the Carmen Stevens Foundation in the show notes so you can find it. But you founded this in 2011, didn't you?
I started very small. My mother was a factory worker. So I, come Thursday night, you're lucky to have a slice of bread. So that always was in my mind, that there's a need for food. So when I got this opportunity through Naked Wines, I thought, it's time to give back. And I started so small. I started with between 300 and 400 kids, I think, giving a cup of soup 3 times a week in 3 schools. And then in 2015, I went on the Naked Wines tour and I was sitting next to a guy called Eamon Fitzgerald. He was, I think, the COO of Naked. Was talking about charities. And I told him about my charity. And he said, okay, we do free food Friday. Whatever we spend on our staff, we give to a charity. I'll give it to you. Gave me, which was 6,000 rand. I can't even tell you what's that in pounds. And for 2.5 months, I could continue just sending thank you letters and pictures. And he came back. It was like, you did that with that money? I was like, yeah, it's soup. It's South Africa. And he said, I need to think about this. Came back and said, how would you feel if we approached the angels if they don't want to chip in and help you with this? And I was still thought, okay, if we can raise like 30 or 50,000 rand, that is divided by, I think, 25. I can probably give each school an amount of money and they can just give me the receipts that they did do this, did feed the kids. We raised 1.2 million rand, which was...
I think I'm going to wait. You carry on. I'm going to work that out.
It was just such a lot of money. And I just realized, okay, maybe I must register this because I can't just give this money to a school now. I need to manage this better. And with that money, that first year, we could feed 3,060 learners for an entire school year. Not a cup of soup, but a breakfast and a lunch. I'm going to tell you, it's been 9 years. I've done my survey calculations, I think, in January. Over the 9 years, because of the support out of the UK, we have made over 48 million plates of food possible. We are in 123 schools. We are in, I think, 44, 47 different communities. We are changing lives with food. Kids come to school because they know they're going to get the food. For 47% of the kids, the food that we provide is the only food they get. Imagine that, the only food they get. And I am so deeply grateful because I look at the people that donate this money. It's people that will never know these kids, will never see them. They will never know them. And yet there's somebody in another country that understands the value of education And if you feed a child can learn. And we are changing lives because of that.
It's incredible. And I think this is the beauty of humanity, that actually nearly all of us, the majority of human beings in this world, are actually very, very kind. And
Yes.
unfortunately, it's life gets in the way, maybe. But we do want to give back. And I think it's often maybe people don't realize or don't know how to. And so being able to hear about this, I mean, it's so inspiring. And actually, I think most people, if you realize the things you can change, if you start with children at a really young age, with it be an education, you're giving them a chance, but you're also giving them direction. And if we think about all of the problems in the world, it's normally coming from lack of education, lack of feeling like you can achieve anything.
Yes.
So it's the feeding them has such a huge knock-on effect. I mean, obviously what you've done is so incredible, and of course you've had angels around you to support, which I think we all do if we really open our eyes. We've all got some angels around us that can help us. What do you think would, in your vision for how maybe wine businesses can genuinely give back, knowing that you've been able to do this is with finances, but I suppose spirit, employment, mentorship. I get in South Africa, I guess land access. In your head, what is it that wineries? Anyone listening? It's a bit of a large question, really. I don't know what
I can answer
comes
that
to mind.
I can answer that for you. I would love to answer that for you. We cannot help everybody. It's impossible. But I'm a firm believer. Even if you take one child, identify one child, and you give one child out of a disadvantaged community the same education as you would give your kids, you have changed the lives of a family. Because if you put one child in a family through a proper education, you have changed how the rest of the family will live for years to come.
That's very powerful, isn't it? Just to think about that. Yeah. Do you take that into your winery as well? So, of course, turns out you can't hire children. It's illegal. So when you are hiring, or, I mean, do you have any mentor schemes? Are you looking for younger talent, especially from underrepresented communities? What are your thoughts when staffing your winery?
So everybody in my cellar is unfortunately my color.
I mean, you say unfortunately or fortunately,
Yeah.
the wheel has to turn as well.
Yes.
It's a difficult one. Yes, okay,
Yes.
that's fantastic.
No, that's one of the things we do. We do a lot of I do a lot of motivational speeches at schools. And I think it's so important for a child out of a disadvantaged community to see me and realize if I can do it, they can do it. And that is why I do the motivational speaking. And I give them good examples because I can tell them where I grew up. And people are, the youngsters, they are so amazed. And they come up and say, really, did you really grow up? But if you can do that, I can do that. So that's one way. The other way is because we cannot employ kids, what we also do is school holiday hampers.
Oh, really?
Because remember, I said 47% of the kids, the food we give is the only food they get. So we pack school holiday hampers for some of our learners. It's impossible because we have just over 25,000 kids on our program any given time. So we identify through the schools the most neediest of kids. And we ask in the schools, can they bring those kids to help us pack that food? That gives me an opportunity to show them a wine cellar, because otherwise I would never see a wine cellar. They see that other people care as well. And mostly the people that I get involved, except the learners, is teachers. It's people that has access to bursary funds. It's people that is in a mentor position. It's people that is part of institutions or clubs that helps kids to overcome if there's any emotional trauma. So we really try and work that and give the child that exposure and build that networks with those people. And then about 3 years ago, we, through the help of Naked Wines again, we identified 2 students that we put through Stellenbosch University, both qualified as winemakers, are now traveling the world. So, but I want to come back to opportunity. You know, the wine industry, as big as it is, it's only that small.
That's true.
Yeah. And because people always ask me, I want to become a winemaker. And it's such a, it opens winemaking and the wine industry open doors for me that I would have never experienced have I not been in this industry. But there is a limit of how many job opportunities there is. And I always feel it's the girls that gets the short end of the stick. Because let's just face it, it's still a very male-dominated industry.
Of course.
A lot of the farms are family-owned. A lot of the farms are going to appoint their own family in those decision-making positions. It's normal. It's not prejudiced. It's not racist. It's just how things operate.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say to people that come to me, the wine industry has a value chain that long. You don't only have to be a winemaker. You can be a viticulturist. You can be a marketer. You can be in R&D. You can be in analysis. You can be in wood. Don't limit yourself only to winemaking, because there's going to come a point where the industry is saturated and you're not going to find your job or your dream job. And I think it's sad that if you went through that motions of getting that qualification, that you end up doing something completely different from what you've studied. So I always caution, make sure this is where you want to be. Understand that winemaking is a labor-intensive job. Understand that.
It's not clean and romantic.
It's not clean, no. Because people do think there's classical music playing in the background. No, there's
sometimes. Oh, why not? You can have classical music.
So it's hard work. It's rewarding if you like to work with your hands. You can be so creative. I love that about winemaking. But know that there is limitations when it comes to job opportunities.
Well, I can see how good you are as a motivational speaker. And I hope people listening actually are hanging on to every word that you've just said. I want to ask you, I guess, my gosh, as you know, I had a million questions, but, it's been really lovely just digging deep into the ones that we've covered. So I guess I want to finish off with, how does the next 10 years look to you for the future of Carmen Stevens Wines?
Whew.
What's the dream?
I think the dream. Next? Okay, so firstly, it was amazing. I was in a position to open the very first 100% black-owned winery in South Africa. How amazing is that? Coming from absolutely no background in wine or in agriculture to where I can say we are the first 100% black-owned winery. The next step would be, I would love next 5-10 years to have, I don't have vineyards, I only have a cellar, to have some vineyards. It doesn't have to be the biggest vineyard, just somewhere I can experiment and do things the way I see it should happen. So our winery it's a processing facility. If people come to me, I need to put up tables for them to have a tasting. I would love to have a tasting room, a brand home for Carmen Stevens Wines, and to be able to leave something. I've got 2 daughters for them. Catoria is Caitlin and Victoria. And to leave that legacy, for them, that they have something that their mother has built for them. I would love to do that. And conquer the world.
Oh, that too. Of course, that one, tick. Well, nearly. You're nearly there. Carmen, honestly, thank you so much for being so honest, for being so open with your words. I think to be so thoughtful with your words. Your kindness shines through. Your wines are magic. I've only had two. I will come and see you the next time that I am in South Africa, because it was one of my most, in fact, it is my most favorite wine trip ever in the world. It was just such an absolutely inspiring, beautiful place. Stellenbosch is incredible. So I have no excuse. And I just want to say thank you, because the whole point of these episodes is just for us to open up our minds and also to highlight wonderful human beings like yourself. So everybody, information in the show notes, just get hold of a Carmen Stevens wines. Apart from the UK and of course South Africa, are your wines anywhere else in the world right now?
The Netherlands, a little bit in Norway, Japan, in Singapore. I'm trying to find somebody in Belgium and Germany. It's really difficult. And that's why I want to conquer the world.
Then it would be easy. They'd be in every country. Well, for my American listeners, I hope that you are taking beautiful words away from this, and you're just going to have to come to South Africa.
You have to. Can I just say something, please? I want to end up in saying that if you come to South Africa, you will experience the most beautiful place on earth. I have to say that. If I drive to work, I see 5 different mountain ranges. Within an hour's drive, you see the most beautiful mountains, the most beautiful beaches. We have the most beautiful cuisine, I promise you.
Yes.
We have
yes, you do.
Fantastic food, fantastic wine. You have safari an hour away from Stellenbosch. But the thing that's going to impress you the most is the people. South Africans are very warm, very inviting. They just want you to come to their houses. Come, you're going to love it. You're never going to go back.
Done. I will be back soon. And I can absolutely say I agree with everything you've just said. Thank you so much, Carmen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And we'll speak again soon. You take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. What a woman. Carmen Stevens is nothing short of extraordinary. She has such a kind, thoughtful, generous spirit, and I feel incredibly privileged to have spent some time in her company. Now, next week, we step away from the cellar and into the classroom, because if we want a truly inclusive industry, a big starting point is with education. I'll be joined by Alex Decatur from the WSET, and we'll be talking about how to make wine learning more accessible and how WSET is using its platform to drive social impact in ways you might not have heard about. And to leave you with a thought that lingers, here is a short but powerful quote from Nelson Mandela. And he said, "It always seems impossible until it is done." Thank you so much for listening. If you've enjoyed the episode, please follow, rate, and review. It really helps more people discover the show. And don't forget to share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, because stories like Carmen's have the power to shift perspectives. Until next Monday, wine friends, cheers to you.